Good morning, everybody. I am Tommy, and you are on the Love Boat. Went a little early today. It's probably going to cost some people that are very used to showing up at the right time, but I'm playing with the internet. I'm trying to I don't want yesterday's show to replay, and that I'm not able to go live. So, Rick Spicer, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Susan Miller, hope you're here. Roberta, good to see you. Taylor Miller, monk, 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 monk. Kristen Melinda, there you are. Do me a favor, everybody. Smack that like button. I think most of you already have, but it supports the boat. It doesn't cost you $1. Archie's mom, good to see you. I'm glad you are here. This is going to be fun today. You have my word. Sandra Harris, good to see you. Probably a reference that few people get, but it's a funny one. Hey, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. You know what? We're going to make it a great day, I promise. Brock Bandy, I'm glad you're here. Carolina, Canada's here. Good to see you. 5x2. Really? Anybody else having problems hearing me? Hopefully we got that fixed. Can you hear me? Everybody, let me know if you're having problems with audio. Sometimes the audio can be on your end, and you worry that it might be on mine. Jane Aldrich, good to see you. I'm a little glitchy. I'm sorry to hear that, but we're going to have to push through it. I think we can get this. I think I can. So I said, are you lost? You probably saw that thumbnail. Are you lost? A lot of people are. And there's a lot of reasons that we feel lost. But it always comes back to the exact same thing. I promise you, it's always going to come back to the same thing. Kristen, you like when he sings allegedly. I like when he sings the Monk song. You know what? That Monk song is funny. Just that if you could have been there the day that, I hit that message machine on the answer machine, and when it played that back, if you could have seen the look on Johnny's face when he looked at me, he just went, "You've got to be kidding. What the hell was that?" And then we almost like went for the machine. I was trying to delete it. He was trying to take the tape out of it. I said, "Now we don't have an answer machine tape." He said, "If I had to walk to Boston to get another," we were in Texas, "to get a tape to replace this, then trust and believe I would do that." Yeah, it was special. It was funny as heck. If you are feeling lost, almost always it has something to do with control. As human beings, we dig control. We like the ability to feel like we're steering our own ship. We like the feeling that we are in control of the things that happen around us. And when we don't feel like we're in control, and I'm guilty as sin of this, when we don't feel like we're in control, we begin to doubt. And when doubt starts crawling in, things are really tough. B-Lady, glad that you're here. Ask yourself, I talk about how Q always says, 5% of your life is going to be what happens to you. That's the part you can't control. 95% is internal, right? It's not external. 5% is external stuff. This is what happens around us. The cable guy doesn't show up. The cab driver rips you off and tries to charge you 3 times what the cab driver charged you the previous day to go to the same place. They don't have meters here, and they call it the gringo tax. If you don't look tan, if you got really a light complexion, they kind of assume you don't know what a cab ride costs and that you're used to America, where you pay a lot of money for taxi cabs. I can't control that. I can't. I can control if it drives me nuts. I can control if I go nuts about it. Roberta, good to see you. That's the 95%. That's the internal. If we can't control the external, then we got to spend a lot of time learning and focusing on trusting and controlling the internal, right? That's a huge deal. I promise you it is. One of the other things that is plaguing everybody on planet Earth is the 3 different time zones. And I don't mean, East and Central and Pacific or Mountain. I'm talking about the past, the present, and the future, right? We really struggle with this as human beings. I promise you we do. The journal makes you focus on this. If you're going to be successful, then you're going to have to focus on the future. People who are uber successful, people that are hyper successful, are successful because they know what they're going to do tomorrow. They know what they're going to do this afternoon. They have a plan. They're not flying by the seat of their pants. People that are not successful are like a leaf on a river. They have no control over what is going to happen in their life. And the crazy thing is, that is the only place that we have any control. Like in the present, you don't know exactly what's going to happen in the next minute. I could stop talking and just sit there. You wouldn't know what the heck was going on. You have no control over what's happening in the present moment. You can control how you react. If I sit there in silence, you could go, I wonder what point he's trying to make. You could get angry. You could doubt the fact that I'm not talking and think that I froze up. You can control those kind of things in the present moment, but you can't do anything to sort of shape it. We can do stuff to shape our future. We can't do jack squat about the past. The past is already gone. Unfortunately, if the past is controlling the present moment, and what do I mean by that? It should be pretty obvious, right? I'm a convicted felon. I spent 46 years of my life doing an awful lot of dope. And I know convicted felons. I have friends that are really struggling. And when you talk to them and you say, you weren't able to start getting work, or you weren't able to start, sort of breaking out of the shell of going from convict to citizen. And when you talk about it, the first thing they do is they talk about their past. I can't get a job today. I'm a felon. When I go in and I fill out paperwork, it just doesn't work. I can't make that happen. My friend Jeffrey, you'll see him in the chat, Jeff Canale. He 50 some odd jobs or something. He just kept putting applications in. I talk to convicts that say, man, I can't get a job. I put in 1 million applications and no one will hire me because I'm a felon. Put in 1 million applications? Hell, that had to take a long time. How many applications did you really put in? Did you quit after 4? Because I got news for you. If I was running a business, and I'm a convicted felon, but if I was running a business and a guy came in and said, here's, I've been convicted of this, this, and this. Yeah, I get some tax breaks for hiring you, but you're going to have to make me believe that this isn't a bad idea. You're going to have to sell yourself. You're going to have to go in there and make me understand what was the catalyst that turned you from that thing in the past to this present version of you that is a better version. Make sense? We live in the past. We live with trauma, and we live with things that scarred us so badly that our present isn't going to be happy. And because of that, we can't plan for the future, which is where our success lives. You following? Are we tracking? So we have to work on the past, whether we want to or not. We at least have to come to grips with our past and shake hands with it. We don't have to be comfortable. I'm never going to be happy with the things I did in the past. I'm never going to get to a point where I was like, yeah, good times, good times. I stole, I lied, I stuck needles in my arms. That's tough to get over. And I'm not going to get over it here. I promise you I'm not. That's why we're talking about journaling. The problem with the past is you'll forget it. You will. And you'll rewrite it. You'll absolutely change the past. The purpose of journaling is to come to grips with the things in your previous existence, the you of yesterday and the day before, to bring it back into focus. Because unfortunately, when we're old enough to realize that the things that we did in the past, or the things done to us in the past, are some of the stumbling blocks that are keeping us from being successful in the future. By the time that realization kicks in, the memories of the past have been changed. Our body has to, our organism, the human being, has to come to grips with the past. So we'll knock the edges off of it. We'll smooth it out here. We'll sand it a little there. We'll rewrite it because we're the hero of this story. And the hero very often either got screwed over or screwed up personally, their past. There's traumas there, and no one wants to deal with trauma. It's like limping. You don't limp because you have to. You limp because if you walk normally, it's going to cause you pain. Well, it's easy to limp spiritually. It's easy to adjust your life so that the things that happened to you in the past, that limp is going to make you feel a little bit better about it. You don't literally limp, obviously. What you do is you change the past. If I tell my story and I say, you know what, I committed a lot of crimes, I robbed banks, I did all of these things, I stuck needles in my arms, but it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. Here's why it wasn't my fault. That's not a narrative that's going to benefit me in the future. If I say I'm going to take responsibility for the things that I did in the past, now there's some trauma that happened to me that isn't my fault. That's the 5%. I can't control that my ex said, you're not going to see your daughter ever again. And that no matter what I did in court or anything else, I really wasn't going to have that opportunity to see my daughter. That's the 5%. The 95% was subconsciously I went, oh, have I got an excuse to do dope? I mean, I got an excuse because the excuse of, well, I'm in pain, that would run out. Nobody was believing that anymore. But when you say they stole my daughter, everybody kind of takes a step back, especially if you put a little bass in your voice before you say it. That's another thing that addicts learn, right? If somebody starts to challenge you on the most important thing in your life, which is getting high, the best thing that you could do was to raise your voice, right? Get indignant. Tommy, I love you, brother. Are you still using? You got the balls to ask me if I'm still using after the past that I had it. We learn really at an early age, and I mean an early age as an addict, that arching your back, bowing your chest out a little bit, dropping your voice, put a little bass in it, it's kind of tough. Right? And it does what you want it to do, because what you want to do is keep doing dope. Last thing in the world you want is somebody that cares about you telling you all the reasons you shouldn't. telling you they love you and they want you to be better. I don't want to hear that crap. I want a 10 bag in a spoon, right, with a little piece of cotton ready to go. It's about how far you fell. Falling does not define you. It's how you rise that shows people who you are. So rise up. We did a show and we talked about Nelson Mandela. You hear that name right now, you don't go convict. Even Adolf Hitler, he's a piece of human trash. But if I bring up his name, you don't go convict. Jesus, it's not the first thing that pops into mind. But all of those people were incarcerated at one time or another. But they're not going to let that become their defining characteristic. What are you allowing to become your defining characteristic? What trash are you dragging from your past, consciously or subconsciously, that is affecting the present? And you know the thing about the present? Your future, sure, the things that you do in the future have an opportunity to make you happy or have an opportunity to make you sad. But they're not going to make you happy or sad now. You're going to have to get to that future moment in order to do it. And the things from your past absolutely are going to affect your level of happiness. You know, if you went through some wicked trauma, you're going to carry that through. But all of that emotion where you're either happy or sad is in the present moment. So when you hear people say you got to live in the moment, right? You got to live in the moment. Johnny Scoble will talk about this. He talks about dogs. You know, when you come home and a dog loses its mind, is just happy as hell to see it. There was a joke, you know, it was a meme that went around. Who loves you more, your significant other or your dog? Lock your husband in the trunk of the car for a day and then go get him out. He's not going to be very happy. Lock a dog in the trunk of a car, and when you get him out, he's so happy to see you. He's jumping up and down. Dogs live so in the moment that when you come home, they're not sure you were going to come home, right? They're just living in the moment. They're not. So when you come home, it's like, holy crap. They get so excited when you feed them because they weren't sure you were going to do it again. They live literally in the moment. It's kind of fascinating. We need to be a little bit more like that, but we can't do that. We can't have that unconditional love that a dog has. We can't deliver that to people because our past traumas are shaping not only our present, but our future. People, every day somebody writes to me and says, I just can't do the journaling thing. I can't seem to start it. Of course you can. I'm sorry. You put a pen to paper, you start writing. There are myths and fallacies that get hammered in. It's really difficult to quit doing drugs. No, it's not. It's difficult to continue to quit doing drugs. But to quit doing drugs, you go, that's it. Today's the day I stop. That's not a difficult process. Living a sober life, being in recovery for the rest of your life can be a difficult process. It can be an impossible process if you allow the past or the present to absolutely take over, the past or the future to take over your present. We got to live in the moment. And if you live in the moment correctly, the way that you did that is you peeled the onion. You went back in time and you did it with a critical eye, because if I sit and I talk about it, it's very easy for the emotional part of my brain to kick in and go, that woman didn't allow me to see my daughter. I got robbed from the moments that a dad really wants to see. And it robbed my daughter of those moments. And I could spend the rest of my life pissing and moaning about that. And in the process, destroy the relationships that I could be having with people like her in the present. If you don't get over the past, the present's going to suck. You ever meet those people, and the second you meet them, you're like, damn, this is an angry person. Like, what the hell is this person's problem? I promise you, their problem is not in the present moment. They're either terrified of their future or they're depressed because of their past. You cannot change the past, but you better come to grips with it. You absolutely can change the future in ways you can't imagine unless you're living in the past, right? The 5% that happened to you, nothing we can do about that. If you had a parent that beat you, that's never going to go away. If you were raped, that rape's not going to go away. If you had a vicious drug problem, if you went to prison, if you put in whatever year it is, fill that blank out for yourself. Me personally, I screwed up the first 46 years of my life, but I came to a realization that it was going to be very easy to screw up the next 46. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm struggling with it since my dad passed. It's hard. These are concepts that sound easy as hell to say, but it's very difficult to do. It's like quitting drugs, right? Quitting drugs is easy. You just don't get high that day. And I'll tell you something. I was a heroin addict. Day one was always easy. I could get through the pain. I could get through the emotional pain of day one easily. You know why? Because it takes 72 hours for all that dope to get out of your system. So even when you go, I got nothing, I have nothing in my system, I haven't done anything. Yeah, you do, I promise. But on hour 73, you don't. And when it's all out of your system and there's nothing there, I did not do very well on day 3. Day 3 was where for 30 years, every single time I tried to get sober, day 3 just knocked me out. It was over. You really gotta work at this. You know, in prison, guys say, are you working a good program? They don't say, are you doing a good program? Right? You're working it. This is going to be something that you're going to have to work at for the rest of your life. The good news is that journaling will cause epiphanies, right? Those moments of unbelievable clarity where you go, oh my God, this is why I'm a jackass. This is why I did dope. And this is why I hurt people that I love. This is why I damage other people. If the only person that you hurt, and that's, you know, I talked about how you can reshape the past. You change the past so that you can feel decent about yourself in the present. My biggest sin, right, in that vein was that I would say all of the time, what business is it of anybody else's in the world? My drug use isn't hurting others. If I want to stick a needle in my arm, you know, if I want to spend $700 a day on heroin, it's not hurting anyone else. Why is it anyone else's business what I want to do? You realize how unbelievably dumb you have to be as a human being to sell yourself that line of crap? It's amazing how, when you start to face the past the way it really is, it loses its ability to destroy your present and your future. Once I came to grips with the fact that every time I put a needle in my arm, I might have been getting high, but I was ruining the lives of my kids. I was ruining the lives of my brother, my sister. I was ruining the lives of all of the people that cared about me. And I was 5 years sober. I was walking the good walk. I was doing exactly what you were supposed to do, but that realization hadn't hit me yet. Honestly, I mean, I could mouth it because I read it in books, but it hadn't hit me. I hadn't assimilated it. It had not become part of what I am. That happened the day my dad died. I finally saw that the worst moment that we were all as a family unit, this was the king of our family, right? This was the person that everybody in my family would have said, that's the family. Like he was a larger than life character. He was funnier than anybody you'd ever meet. And he had the ability when things were really bad to be calm. And when things were awful, he had the ability to say things that were just so damn astute, right? Like he read every self-help journal that had ever been written. He had taken every self-help course. He'd never done any of that. But when the ship hit the sand, he was amazing. And that kept the family together. If I was beefing with my brother, my dad would fix it. Honestly, it'd make us both feel like idiots, and we'd be talking because of what my dad said. And that was with everybody in the family. If there was ever a problem, and when he was gone, it was like the family was gone. There wasn't going to be anything. And I knew how everyone was feeling. But what I didn't realize was that they didn't just have to mourn the loss of the king of our family, right? The patriarch of our family. They had to be terrified that I was going to go shoot dope because of it. I realized that my drug habit was destroying lives even after I was sober. But for the first time in my life, I would get up in the morning and I would call my mom instantly and go, you know what? I'm going to get through today. There's no chance I'm going to defecate on my dad's memory by using dope to get through his death. Can I please have some prayers? Please. I need to be strong and stand up for one loved one against another one, and it's destroying me. This is one of the worst things that we face as families, is that when the people start to beef with one another, it's almost impossible to not look like you're taking a side, even if you don't. You know, when I was having struggles because of external things that happened in my life, there was somebody on the boat who I thought was in both camps. And how could you be in both camps? How could you support somebody that didn't like me? How could you? Now, if they're creating content every day trying to destroy your life and all they do is make content about you, you're going to watch that, then there's something wrong. That's different. But if two people make a big mistake and there's somebody praying for both of them, that makes that person a saint, not an asshole. That makes that person enlightened. Cindy G, communication fixes every single problem on planet Earth if it has to do with human beings and interactions. My advice, and I'm no guru, or maybe I will be briefly today, but my advice, Cindy, would be to reach out to both of them and say, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but do you know what this is doing to other people? Seriously. You get so focused on, man, Johnny's pissing me off, that I don't think of what it's doing to Sister Scoble. I don't think of what it's doing to my mother. If I'm beefing with somebody, I'm taking a side. I'm taking a side of the 16-year-old against her mother and sister. They will not talk to me. Okay. If those people aren't going to talk to you, if it's not a you're in the middle of something, then the best that you can hope for is to support that 16-year-old and know how much different it is for a 16-year-old. You have the gift of discernment, and you have the gift of things that only come with scars. That 16-year-old doesn't have enough scars to understand exactly the gravity of the situation and everything. This is all new. And what's happening right now is the things that this child, keep it real at 16, we like to say things like young adults or whatever. I was 28 and I was a child. The thing that this child is going through currently are going to be the baggage that I'm talking about right now. So the best you can hope for is to try to teach this child that they can't control. You're not going to be able to control what's going on in this situation, even if you were an adult. If people are going to be jackwagons, if people are going to do things that are going to hurt you, you can't control that. That's the 5%. But if you can sit and try to articulate the fact that what's going on right now, you can react to in a myriad of ways. The person that was praying for both camps, I crapped all over this person at a level you wouldn't believe. There would be nothing on planet Earth that would be more embarrassing to me. Nothing would be more embarrassing than if you could see the things that I said to somebody who probably was spending an hour a day praying for me. Sometimes what we do with that 95% is embarrassing. Embarrassment is a clarifier like you wouldn't believe, right? And I don't mean, the shower curtain fell and 4 people saw you naked. It's kind of a different kind of embarrassment. But when you've done something, that brings a little shame with that embarrassment, I would communicate with this 16-year-old to the point where my lips hurt. I would keep communicating with this 16-year-old. This could be the greatest thing that ever happened to this child. If I had learned at 16 the lesson that 5%, I can't make those people be better. I can't make those people communicate. I can't make those people not hurt me. But I sure as hell can control how it's going to hurt me, how I'm going to deal with it. And if there have been times that there are people who are going to injure you, and I don't mean physically, but they're going to injure you. And journaling, years of reading books, years of listening to Q, there are people who I realize don't have the capacity to not hurt me, if that makes sense. They're not enlightened, is a word that people throw around, and it makes you think of sitting with your legs crossed and going om or singing kumbaya. But enlightenment is just a better version of you, right? You have learned something that is going to bring you a little bit forward. And I'm not kidding. The concept of there's things I can't control took me 4 decades. I was pretty damn convinced that the reason these things were happening was because I failed to control them. There are things you just can't do a thing about. A flat tire, should you have swept the road before you went to work? Walk that path you're going to be driving. Make sure that there's not a nail or anything like that. You can't do anything about a flat tire. But if I'm on the side of the road cursing until veins are sticking out of my neck, and it's going to literally destroy the next 4 days of my life, not just for me, but for all of the people that I come in contact with, it's also going to make those people go, man, Tommy's a jackass. Seriously. What is he, 50, 55? That's what a flat tire does to him? Would you want this guy working for you? Would you want to listen to advice from this person? Would you want to love this person? Well, that's a very nice thing to say, Archie's mom, it really is. But once again, the things that happened to me, the life that I lived, that's now the 5%. I was guilty for all of those things. I made the decisions to do those things. I made the decision to take what was happening in my life and make it worse. But now that falls into the 5% because I can't fix it. I can't go back and not shoot dope. I can't go back and not rob a bank. I can't go back and hurt the people that I love the most, but I can do everything within my power to make sure that they know I'm not going to relapse. I can do everything within my power to make sure they know where I'm at in life. Communicate to them. It's so easy to call someone every time you feel bad, to reach out for someone every time you need help. Do you know how difficult it is to make sure you're doing that when everything is perfect? Just to reach out and say, man, I'm in such a great place. How are you? Things going well? My mom is at a level of peace. Like I try to make sure that I reach out and talk to my mom routinely and to tell her that, I don't miss my previous life. I miss my family, but I don't miss where I was a month and a half ago. And it's not because I hate America. I do shows where we talk about the fact that, the country's in a pretty bad place. It's going in a direction that's not great. It's kind of dangerous to do that. I mean, from an audience standpoint, when you're in another country, people can easily walk away and say, dude hates America. That's not at all where it's at. I love Ecuador. I don't hate America. I hate what the entire world is doing, what they will allow to go on. But that's 5%. I can't do anything about that. There's nothing I can do about what's happening. I never reach out when I'm sinking. Why do folks do that? Because when we know that things are bad, suffering in silence is absolutely horrible. Honestly, we start saying to ourselves, I don't want to put this burden on someone else. If my son's hurting, I want that burden on me. If my brother's in pain, bring me that burden. Do you know why? Because as much as I love him and as much as I can empathize with him, it's not my emotional brain that's now running the show. It's his. So when people bring me their problems, they say all the time, man, you always seem to have the answers because I don't feel your problem. It's not my problem. Try to see how good of an answer I have when my emotional brain is making the decisions. It's a lot easier because I read a bunch of books. It's a lot easier for me to give advice on people that are allowing the damage or the pain or the hate or whatever emotion, the love. Great emotions can get you off track, but they're allowing the emotional part of their brain to steer their ship. Then they come to me for advice. Their love of that person, I don't have that love. So it's easy to say, hey, are you letting that cloud your judgment? Well, of course they are, but they can't see that because they're smack dab in the middle of being in love. You can go the other direction. I just thought every once in a while it might be nice to mention love. Like how I can't control my brother not talking to me for 3 years because my dad left everything to me, fearing what my brother would do with it. He worked so hard in life to build. It still sucks. It does. And you know what? You couldn't control that your dad chose to leave you that money. You can't. You can't control that your brother isn't going to talk to you for 3 years. You could reach out once a month. That's within your control. You can leave a message once a week to just say, I love you. I'm sorry that this ended up the way that it did. Just know that I care about you. You also, and I'm not involved. You understand? I don't have the emotion that you have. So you talk to somebody else about it. And this is the answer to the question. Why do you reach out? Because suffering in silence will make things worse. Because this isn't me, because it wasn't my brother that I haven't talked to in 3 years. It's easy for me to say, in that 95%, you can try to think in his brain. You can try to think what it must feel like to go, Dad didn't love me enough to give me any of that. Dad didn't trust me enough to give me any of that. And he loves Taylor so much more than me that he would give everything to her. He trusts her so much more than me that she's a success. I'm a failure. I'm a piece of crap. She's fantastic. And Dad just validated that. Now that's not the truth, right? Dad's trying to protect him just as much. If somebody died and gave me $1 million when I was 30, you'd be listening to somebody else right now. I promise you. You know, God protected me from getting $1 million free dollars at the lowest point in my life. You know, after I lost the ability to be a public speaker, if you dropped $1 million on me, I'd have put every single penny of it in my arm and I would have put it fast enough to take me off the planet. But it's easy, right? It's easy. And it's one of the reasons that we reach out. One of the reasons you have to reach out. It's one of the reasons you go to a therapist, because the therapist isn't going through what you're going through. Makes sense, right? They're not going through, and I'm not trying to crush you, Taylor, I promise. But it's really easy for me to think logically about your problems. It's not easy for me to think logically about mine. You think I'm a guru? You should watch me deal with the internet not working. You should watch me deal with not being able to find one shoe. It's all about perspective. It's absolutely all about perspective. Where do you think you get perspective? Huh? When your problems are raging, when you can't seem to make a plan for your future because of what happened to you in the past, where do you think you find those answers? Because you're not going to get them out of a Cracker Jack box, right? Where do those epiphanies come from? Where do those moments of clarity come from? Therapists do a hell of a lot of good that way because they're not tied up in your emotional quandary. They don't even know your brother, right? Or your dad or your sister. They don't know about the stuff that you can't share with them because there's things that we all keep. Those are the holy grail stuff, the sacred, it's sacrosanct. I'm not going to talk about this stuff. That's just a little bit too personal. Baggage, you're just not going to be willing to open. Therapists aren't going to know about all of those things that are going to cloud even when you're being clear, even when you're asking for help. Good God, let's just say for craps and giggles, you're 50. 3 years ago, this happened. The 49 years up to that, fights with you and your brother, fights between, no one knows any of that stuff. You know who knows it? You do. So where do you think those epiphanies are going to come from? Where do you think those answers are going to come from? They're going to come from you. And if you're going to walk into a therapist, you can't begin to know the difference. Kristen Melinda knows. She's a therapist. How much different it is when the person who comes in to talk to you journals. They have a therapist that they're already working with, right? Themselves. Now, even journaling, sometimes, it took me years to get to certain points in journaling. You hit walls. You get to a point where it's like journaling was the answer for me. It was like, the sun came out. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. Therapists at that point did wonders for me. But they asked questions, and instead of going, oh man, that's a great question, I could say, I'm not sure, but I can look that up. How did you feel when this person did that to you 2 years ago? I mean, I can say I felt bad, but I can go back and read the journal and really tell you how I felt because I wrote about it for 9 days straight. If I wrote about something in my journal and it's been time and time again, 2 weeks of me writing about it, guess what? That's going to be baggage that if I don't get fixed, it's going to invade the present. It's going to hold me back in the future. It's a normal thing for a man to lose his shit over electronics not working. Yeah, it is. It probably is. But to the degree that I do is embarrassing. A 2 or a 3, you hit your thumb with a hammer, you're never going to yell, bummer. There's probably, if you've been a person that's cursed in your life, hitting your thumb with a hammer is going to bring that out. However, if it ruins the next 2 days of my life, the 5% of doing that when I didn't want to, I'm never embarrassed by the things that happen to me that I cannot control. I'm embarrassed by the 95%. The external stuff, even if it was my fault that does it, that's not what I'm looking back on. Maybe at one time it would have been. But since I became the journal guy, since I started to really work this way, what embarrasses me is what I can control. What did I do with the 95%? Do I take the time when I'm beefing with somebody or there's a problem that I have? Do I take the time to go, man, what must this feel like for him or for her? How far do you got to push somebody to make a video that's going to destroy not you, but both of you? It's not something you're probably going to pop off at the top of your head the day it happens. If you're going to get to that place, it's probably going to be because you journaled. I'm telling you, Lindy, day 7, can I get a deuce in the chat? So, because it's not a prayer. How about a pat on the back? You're never going to get to, I've been journaling for 10 years if you don't get to day 7. You're not going to get to day 7 if you don't pick up a piece of paper and a pen. Do head injuries play into overreacting situations? Good God, yes. Good God, yes. Now, and that's such a great question. I am so damn glad that you asked that. I really am. I am so glad that you asked that. Massively, the brain injuries, the TBIs, massively do that. I'm a 29-year-old mom of 2, ages 11 and 6. Am I too young and inexperienced in life to see a therapist? No. The 16-year-old you were talking about isn't too young and inexperienced to see a therapist. A therapist's job is to help you organize thoughts in a way so that you can make decisions and you can deal with what's going on in your life. Because when emotions are raging, the logical part of your brain isn't going to allow you to do the things that a therapist is going to do for you. It's not. The emotional part of your brain is never going to go, I wonder what the other person's feeling. That's not normal when you're living in emotion. It's normal for a therapist to say that because they're not living your emotion. They weren't there when your brother was drunk and broke a window or threw something against the wall. You were. All of that baggage, that's something you live with. It's not something your therapist lives with. You're never too young to see a therapist. If you can communicate, it's probably a decent time to start talking to a therapist. For real. For real. So, yeah, I have traumatic brain injury, a lot of it. And I wasn't a rager as a kid. I worked at a cabinet making place. First place I ever worked was making cabinets, and I never got flustered by anything. I didn't. I learned a lot from the boss who never, ever got flustered. And as a kid, I didn't do any of this stuff. Johnny loses it, not to the degree that I do, but Johnny loses it over small stuff. He didn't do that when he was younger. He's also had way too many concussions. Junior Seau played linebacker in the NFL. And by all accounts, everyone that knew this guy said he was the nicest man on planet Earth. He did so much with the money that he made to try to make the community better. He was one of those dudes that when he could have been in the south of France on a really big boat, he was talking to kids. He was a guy that by all accounts was just a freaking ace. And then one day he drove out to the training center, right, where he used to work out, took a gun, put it in his chest, and killed himself. He didn't put it here because he wanted science to be able to get a look at his brain. When they sliced his brain into thin enough slices to put under a microscope, they found that he had chronic traumatic encephalopathy, right? Which is not something you can diagnose while the person's alive. The only way that at this point they can test for it is to slice the brain into really thin pieces like you ordered pastrami and look at it. That's how you're going to find out you have it. This guy was kind enough that when he said, I can't live on this planet anymore, he wanted them to be able to look at that brain to find out if there's something they could do to help other people. Now, he made a mistake, right? Taking himself out. He didn't get rid of the problems that were overwhelming him. But I think that may have been, there are people that take that out because they start to feel like maybe they're going to do that to somebody else. It's horrible, right? It really is. But yeah, head injuries play a huge role in this. And you also start to change. You will feel changing happen that isn't normal. It's not something that should have happened, but it is. My 16-year-old agreed to counseling and met with the first one this week. She's making up her mind on the process and the person. God, I love that. And that's enlightenment. Letting your child make up her mind on who the person's going to be. I promise you're way ahead of the curve. You're way ahead of the curve. There's a lot of parents that would pick that therapist for the kid. I know that one was I really felt good about that one. We do this as parents. We want to protect our kids so much that we think we know more than them. We've been around a long time. If your kid's not jiving or really feeling good with the person they have to talk to and open up to, it's not going to happen. The fact that you're letting your daughter do that, put a 3 in the chat to pat that back, please. Man, that's huge. Honestly, Cindy, there's no way to put into words just how big that is. That's huge. Do I think she would journal? So that's the question to ask, says, B-Lady asks. Cindy G, good for her. Do you think she would journal? I hope so. I hope so. Biggest regrets in life? Honestly, I wish I had found journaling when I was 10. The problem was, and people told me, no lie, I had a ton of people say to me, you should be journaling. You should be writing stuff down. But that's the reason that I was in the hell I was in anyway. I felt like I was born wrong and that watching other people just write, and that was not something that I could do. And it made me feel less than. And as humans, when we feel less than, we will do just about anything to make that go away. Psychological limping. I've talked to her about journaling. Actually, she watches Some of the Boat with me. No way. How cool is that? Maybe when I replay again. I love that. I really do. I love that. And I'm glad that I just said it's really one of my biggest regrets. The ability to go back years. I can go back a decade now. I can look at where I was 10 years ago. And when I start feeling like an idiot, when I really started feeling like things weren't great, or I'll go back and read 10 years ago where I was. My brain was in better shape 10 years ago. Make no mistake. Physically, this is a thing that progresses, right? My cerebral infarction isn't going to get better. It's going to get worse. That's a reality. It's just like my brother, same reality. So we have to work a little harder. We have to do a lot more with the external hard drive, right? We can't control this. That's the 5%. We can control what we let it do to us. I can get depressed and I could sit on the couch and watch television and I will be gone quickly. My brain will not be where it should be. I'm already kicking the hell out of them, by the way. You know, what they predicted, I'm already kicking the hell out of it because I don't do that stuff. I don't do anything that is going to put me in the wrong direction. I read my ass off. I do all kinds of stuff that tries to keep the brain stimulated. I seek out dopamine everywhere I can legally. Because the dopamine you get from smoking crack isn't the kind of dopamine that's going to protect the brain. The kind of dopamine you get from doing something new that you've never done before absolutely can build neural pathways and do all kinds of stuff that's going to keep you sharp for a hot minute, much longer than you're supposed to. I used to journal for about 3 months and it really helped. It helped me move forward, but then I stopped and I don't know why. Well, we start to get to a point where we go, you know what? This is fantastic. I'm fixed, right? Like Charlie Sheen. I closed my eyes and healed myself. When you start journaling and you see all of the successes, we fall back into patterns that we've done in the past. Why do people relapse? For the same reason that people stop journaling. We get to a point where we're very comfortable. Well, if I'm very comfortable, why do I need to keep taking 10 minutes every morning and every night to do this? Doesn't make any sense. Why would I keep doing that? Right? I hear that more than I hear I just can't journal. More people say, man, I did that and it was awesome. And then I stopped. I don't know why. Because life got awesome. We journal because we realize life isn't good. We start to write because we realize that something is wrong. Then things stop feeling that way. Well, then why keep doing it? Right? How about maintenance journaling? You think life is good? Keep journaling and life will remain good. I would be willing to bet, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I would be willing to bet that things aren't as good as they were when you were journaling for 3 months. That's the external hard drive in more ways than one. As we get older, like it or not, you're not going to remember things like you did when you were a kid, because when you did stuff as a kid, it was novelty. It was the first time you were doing it. You were experiencing stuff you hadn't done before. And those memories are hardwired. We're built that way. So that when we hear the train coming, we go, wow, that's a train. You follow me? If you put your hand on a stove and you burn yourself, that is etched in your brain. You will never do it again. They use dopamine. We use dopamine to push that into the brain just a little bit deeper. And then we get to an age where what's novel when you're 50? Hey, you want to go do this thing? They call it a rave. Yeah, I'm good. Done that. Right? Been there. Hey, you want to go do this? No, I've done that. You want to do this? No. So that we get to a point where we say doing X, Y, and Z is comfortable. So I'm going to do X, Y, and Z every day for the rest of my life. Right? Find people our age and the routines. I mean, we learn to do things in routine because it makes us successful. It also tends to stunt us. I mean, the routine's fantastic. The journaling is important. You got to keep doing it, but you got to keep moving forward. We're big on mental health. I have 31-year-old autistic, schizophrenic, and we don't hide these things. None from her. I love that. But she was also told by medical choice at 12, she has to agree. God, I love that. Man, do I love that. And I also love that the ability to say, I have a mental illness is a struggle for people in the, especially the more civilized we are. The more civilized the society, the less likely you are to say that there's something wrong with you. We're taught that that's, you know, people don't want to hear it. People don't, they look at you differently. I'm mentally ill. My brother's mentally ill. These are things that it's reality. And there's no chance in hell that I'm going to hide that. It's one of the things in my life that makes me who I am. Didn't say defining characteristic. Did you notice? That's not a defining characteristic. Kindness is a defining characteristic. Autism is a diagnosis. Don't let those things define you. And one of the ways that you don't let it define you is you don't hide it. Misal Smokes, good to have you here. You don't hide it. Did you do something wrong to get that? What did you do wrong to bring that on? Nothing. 5%. Can't control that. You can control the 95% of how you deal with it. Cindy's hitting it out of the park. You are. True story. You can't control the fact that those diagnoses, right, that they were going to happen. But being open and honest about it with your kids, my kids know everything there is to know about me. And I talk to parents all the time, and they'll say, my son or my daughter is using. Really? Did you ever talk to them about your drug use? No, it would give them permission to use. Well, something did, right? They got that permission from somewhere. I think somehow we get clouded on this. When you talk to your kids, you don't go, I smoked pot for a long time when I was younger, and man, was it awesome. Oh, the fun I had. The really good stuff. Obviously, that's not how you talk to a kid about drugs. You don't highlight the fun. You highlight what it does. And you can be honest. Yeah, it feels fantastic. And here's what it's going to cost you. I do a whole series on how to talk to kids about drugs. It's actually one of my most, how parents should talk to kids. Lying to your kid about anything of drug use, worse than saying, I never did it. That's bad. If you did it, you should share that. You should be honest. It's really a good idea. A gratuity journal. Would that help? Absolutely. I talk about this a lot. Absolutely would help. Absolutely would help. We as human beings, my favorite standard joke, I used to do it as a public speaker. I'd get on stage and you look out, if there's 400 people out there, you'd have about 40. If there were 4,000 people, you could take about 10% who are like this before you even stop. Before you even start, they're like this. It's like they're protecting their vital organs from me somehow trying to get to their wallet. And I wouldn't point at them, but you'd say, at every show, you see those people who are just like this. Even if it's not a show where you're pitching somebody to try to take their money. If it's a show where you're just trying to motivate people, there are people that hate you because you can go up and speak. It's something they struggle with, but they're doing this one. And it's the same person where if you said, today we're going to give $1 million to every single person that leaves today, you're going to get a backpack. It's going to have $1 million in it. He'd be the guy that said, these are 50s. That dude's got it in hundreds. He's got to carry home 28 pounds. I got to carry home 56. There are people that can look at, right, a cloud and never see the silver lining. That's human nature. So gratitude journaling doesn't allow you to do that. It just doesn't. You have to start looking at things that are positive, even in the face of things that aren't. A guy in prison who starts doing gratitude journaling. How do you do gratitude journaling when you're in prison? Well, you're not at Lewisburg, right? You're not at Victorville. That's something to be grateful for. You didn't join a gang, and the gang members there aren't trying to kill you over it. Sometimes there are places where if you don't want to, the term they use is tip up. If you don't want to tip up, if you don't want to join a gang, then you're in trouble. They could journal and say, I am so glad. You know what I used to journal in my gratitude journal when I was in prison? My dad's still alive. He was old. His health wasn't good. Every day I would journal. Thank God, right? My gratitude journal. Every day. My dad's still alive. He's doing all right. He's still alive. Because that was my prayer, man. Every single day. God, do not let him die. And God's good. Because if he did, I don't know where I'd be. We have a crazy house here. And we are proud of who we are. Just a little hard to understand some stuff. Yep. And if it wasn't a crazy house, it would still be a little hard to understand stuff. There's nobody that understands everything. We're not supposed to. I promise. You're supposed to have to work through some of these things. It'll make you a better human being. And it will make the people around you realize that we're all broken. It just can't be your defining characteristic. And you can not tell your kids that you've had problems. It's not going to benefit them. But the worst thing in the world is to lie to them about the substance. Nothing's worse. If you go with the DARE program, the drugs, drug awareness and whatever it was, you remember DARE. But they would go in and say, boys smoking pot are going to get gynecomastia, right? They're going to develop female breast tissue. Do you know how long it takes for them to look around and go, Daniel smokes every single day. He has since the first time I met him. He doesn't need a bra. They're lying to us. I've told the story a million times, but they showed Reefer Madness in my high school, and they weren't trying to get us to laugh. I'm not joking. They showed Reefer Madness to scare us away from doing weed. I saw that stoned. By the time they showed us Reefer Madness, I was already using. So you know my takeaway, right? Whatever they tell me about cocaine's a lie. Whatever they tell me about heroin's a lie. It's one of the reasons that recovering from being a drug user is so hard. Because it's the same thing. Once somebody lies to you once, it's really difficult to believe that that person is not going to lie to you again. Well, if you're a kid and the person telling you about drugs, if they say to you, pot can kill you, the 5th time you smoke it, you're going to die. They're going to watch friends of theirs smoke it every single day and they're going to go, pfft. So when you say to them, those little blue pills that say M30 on them, they're killing 300 people a day. Sure they are. And pot's going to make you grow boobs. If you're honest about everything along the way. Is pot going to kill me? No, it's not going to kill you. It's not. Is it worse for you than alcohol? I don't know. Never seen anybody smoke too much pot and beat their wife. But I've watched people drink too much and wake up the next day to find out that they had punched their wife in the face. If you smoke pot for 3 years and then you quit, it's not going to kill you. You drink every day for 3 years and then you quit cold turkey, it can take you off planet Earth. So if a kid asks me which one's worse, I'm going to be honest. And I've told the story on here a million times, but I did a show where I talked to kids. I was in New York and I was talking to kids about trying to not do dope. And when I went out, I could see them. When I first stepped out on stage, everyone had already checked out. They're looking around like this. They're doing nothing. I didn't want me here because everyone who had ever talked to them about drugs, it was the same thing every single time. So I started off with a look around the room for me real quick if you can. Everybody just look around. Check it out. Look around. Do you see any teachers? Do you see any cops? Do you see any guidance counselors? It's just us. And I'm not going to do what everybody else did. I'm not here to tell you drugs are bad. Okay? I'm not. It's not what I'm here for. I'm going to give you some education about this stuff. I trust that you're smart enough to take the education that I'm going to talk to you about and make the decision you want. I talked to my kids when they were young. I told them, don't have sex until you get married. I've done it, a ton of it. And I wish I hadn't. Don't have sex until you get married, and it's going to be way more special. For the rest of your life, this is going to be something that you share with only one person. That's great. However, if you do, let's talk about venereal diseases. Let's talk about HIV or AIDS, and let's talk about condoms, birth control. I'm not encouraging them to have sex, but I sure as hell don't want to not give them information so that they have unsafe sex, and I end up a grandpa. So I'm going to tell my kids not to do drugs. However, they're going to know enough about them where if they decide I'm not going to listen to dad, that the one that they pick isn't meth. They're going to know enough about it where if they make a bad decision, it might just be weed. What is it about pot that makes me want to eat Doritos and sleep, but makes my husband amazingly more functional? It's not the pot. It's the person. Pot's the same every single time, but the way a person's physiology and their brain chemistry and all that, the most fascinating thing to me in the world is what somebody with ADHD who really has it, what will happen if that person takes speed? When I lived in Texas and I was in my early 20s, I knew a woman that used to get a prescription for a drug I was quite fond of. And I would swap out drugs that I could get. She wanted benzos, right? That's what she wanted. And I was getting speed from her. And they were doing the exact same thing. If you had seen both of us, you would have thought we were on the same substance. But if you gave her speed, she'd go out, sound asleep, because her brain chemistry was so much different than mine that's why kids who can't focus, they give them speed. The kid doesn't do this. That's why you're giving them the speed. Ritalin takes a kid who bounces off of the wall and gets him to slow down so that he can focus on things. And don't weigh in. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just explaining that your brain chemistry is going to greatly affect whatever substance you're doing, how it affects you. It's not as cut and dry as weed does this to everybody, because that's just not the way it is. Steve Jobs was a big pot smoker. It didn't make his butt grow roots and sit on his mom's couch in the basement playing video games. But when I was talking to those kids and I said, let's just do question and answers. We'll start on weed because you guys know a ton about weed. I'm not going to sit up here and waste my time. So you can just ask me questions. And they were asking questions. And I gave you most of them. Is it worse than alcohol? Is this stuff going to kill me? Will this stuff get me addicted? Right? Blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I was going to do it for 3 hours because there was a question I wanted to hear. And finally, this kid raises his hand and goes, so this stuff's harmless. There's no reason not to do this. I said, no, this is the most dangerous drug of all the ones I'm going to talk to you about today. And he was a slick kid. He was like, oh, it's because the gateway thing. I go, no. whatever you touch first is a gateway drug. Whatever you touch first. Statistically speaking, now most kids, the first thing they do is going to come from mom and dad's medicine cabinet. Drugs that you didn't throw out, your kid has a better chance of using that first than they do weed. That's true. That's a statistical thing. No, I said the reason that it's the most dangerous drug that I'm going to talk to you about is because if you start smoking crack, you're probably not going to be a 30-year crack smoker. You're going to hit rock bottom and you're going to be forced to make a decision to either quit or die, or it's going to put you in prison. Heroin's the same way. Meth's a little different because people get productive on it. But for the most part, most drugs will cause you to hit rock bottom. But you can smoke weed for your entire life. Ask Willie Nelson. Now, Willie is a guy that goes on stage and sings. But if Willie had to have a job in normal society, more than likely he wasn't going to be climbing the ladder. You know what I mean? For every Steve Jobs, there's 10,000 people who are in grandma's basement, right? And I said, raise your hand. If you've got an uncle that lives in grandma's basement or lives in grandma's house and he plays video games all day, do you have an uncle who still sits and plays video games? He's, in his late 40s and all he does is play video games. Hands went up all over the place. People started laughing. That's the danger. You're not going to hit rock bottom. That's never going to happen. You can smoke dope every day for the rest of your life. It's not going to kill you. It's going to steal your ambition. And again, not for everybody, but you suck. Do you hear the guru chant? I don't even like you legend. So, but no joke. The danger in weed is pot smokers dream incredible dreams and then do nothing about them. And that's the what I've seen. I've not taken many pain scripts, but Vicodin puts me out like a light. So everybody's affected a little differently, right? I have never thrown up from doing heroin. Never. I knew people, a lot of them, who every time they did it, they threw up. And you go, how could you continue to do something that I can't answer that question because I was never that guy. I've never overdosed on it. Like I'm a really different cat. And Vicodin, no joke. If like when Johnny and I were going hard, if we had a bottle that had 36 Vicodin in it, we were going to decide which one of us was going to use it. I'm not even joking. We had gotten to a point where taking that thing and splitting it in half, now neither of us are really going to feel a thing. I mean, I would chew up 30 of those things and wash them down with alcohol. Strong tummy, bulletproof tummy. Now, I've had issues. There was a time in my life where I absolutely burned a hole through it, but I think that was more from other drugs that I was doing. What amazes me, one of the scariest 5-minute periods of time in my life was when I went in prison and they had brought somebody in. If you were over the age of 55, they were doing an ultrasound like they do on a woman that's pregnant to look at the baby. They were doing this on the vital organs of any of the inmates that were over a specific age. So I'm sitting in the waiting room. Now, when a guy comes out, he just can't walk out. You're locked in there. So every person that just got done came back in, and this guy came in and said, man, he said, my liver is toast. And I thought, you realize how much damage I've done to my liver? Like, this is tough. And I just kept thinking, and everybody that was coming out was like, my liver's done. They said, my liver looks like this, my liver looks like that. I was terrified. That 5 minutes that I was waiting to go in there, I couldn't believe it. That, and I smoked heroin off tin foil for 20 years. There wasn't a day that went by for 20 years that I didn't put some heroin on tin foil, light it on fire, and breathe it all in. And the crazy thing is, now that I'm sober, like I've looked at demonstrations where they take it with nothing on it and light it, and you just watch all these fumes come up, and I'm like, oh my God, that did great stuff for my brain. Aluminum has been tied to all kinds of stuff with brain, with memory loss, and not so good. Can we get a 1 for Tommy Bird? He's struggling with a headache. You know what? Get some salt in you. I swear to you, this has been life-changing. Me and my brother. I was smoking crack for over 20 years. I still smoke weed, but nothing else. Did you smoke crack every day for 20 years? Honestly, I'm not being a wise ass. I'm curious because that's a rare thing. It really is. It's an expensive drug. Like I know people that smoked crack 2 or 3 times a week and did it for decades, but it's a wild thing that somebody smokes crack every day and makes it 20 years. That's I'm so glad to hear that you're sober though. That's huge. To put that in behind you after 20 years, that's impressive as hell. That really is. Hats off to you. Hold on a second. That's damned impressive. How do you feel about the elderly whom are in a great deal of pain taking pain medication. I think anybody that's in pain should take pain medication. I think anybody that, yeah, Archie's mom, that's amazing. God bless you. It's amazing. It really is. I'm so proud of you. Right. You know, the people that do it that long don't make it. That's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And someday you got to send me an email and tell me what made you quit. Because if you went 20 years without hitting rock bottom, then something else made you quit. I'd be fascinated to hear how that went down. Yeah, if you're in pain, whether you're elderly or you're not elderly, I'm not against pain medication. I can't take it, right? The weed makes her eat potato chips and go to sleep, makes her husband super productive. I can't take pain medication because if I take it, I'm going to go off the rails. But I am in the small segment of the population that is like that. Most people on planet Earth will take pain medication when they're in pain and at no other time. I wasn't taking it to treat physical pain. I was taking it for spiritual pain. I was taking it for emotional pain. I hope, and I get this a lot, I hope this sinks in. If you're hearing my voice and you think I got to get off of Vicodin, right? And you're taking it for pain, here's a great rule of thumb. They're going to write something on the bottom of that, on the side of that brown bottle. You feel me? On the side of that bottle, they're going to write 1 pill 3 times a day for 20 days or whatever, right? If you're taking it the way they wrote it on the side of the pill bottle, I don't know why the hell you'd quit. If it's treating your pain and you're not, but most people I know, off methadone for 3 weeks. Archie's mom, you're a rock star. Forget crack. Getting off of methadone, God help you. Here, take this. I'm serious. It's absolutely incredible. Pain medication is one of the gifts, right? From whatever you believe in, God, whatever. There's a reason, right, that we have a receptor in our body that's going to take in the morphine molecule. That, you know, the MU receptor. It's there for a reason. I don't think anybody should live in pain. I don't. But if you get a prescription for 30 days of pain meds and you're done with it on day 7, you're not taking it for the pain that they wrote the prescription for. I promise. This is something I know a little something about. If you're going through your 30-day prescription of pain meds in a week, 10 days, you can try to convince yourself as much as that you're doing that because you're in pain. But I'm here to tell you, that's not why you're taking it that way. It's not. You're in pain, but it's not physical pain. That's not what's making you do that. I know people that have been on pain meds for 3 decades, but they've never run out of a prescription before the end of the month. They take it exactly how it's prescribed to them and it treats their pain. It's great. If you break your femur today, if I break my femur today, addiction be damned. I need pain meds. I'm not going to get through that without them. It's kind of fascinating what the morphine molecule does when you have physical pain. It's a different thing. If I were to break my femur and they gave it to me and I was in a place where I couldn't get more access to it, I probably wouldn't struggle when they stopped giving it to me because the drug is going to get in the body and actually treat pain. If it's got nothing to treat, it's going to start taking away stuff from your past. It's going to start taking away spiritual pain and emotional pain and kinds of pain that you need to work through. Journaling, talking to a therapist, praying, meditating, doing yoga, whatever it is you do that is honestly working on that. I work with the elderly as a medication aid. Doctors will not prescribe them pain meds. Oh, God. And I just see them in so much pain. It upsets me that they won't do more for them. Well, that's what we do. It's knee-jerk reaction, right? We're doing that because of what the Sacklers did. We've been doing this one. OxyContin came out and you stub your toe and they write you a prescription for OxyContin. And then when that got out of control, they said, no more. We didn't say, let's try to be responsible about how we give out. No, it's never anything like that. Like the new fentanyl law, right? 10-year mandatory minimum. We're going to lock up people that are on it. We're going to lock up addicts. Oh, that's a hell of an idea. Really good stuff. They should numb out the area, not dope up the whole body and brain. Correct. But for some people, they're going to go hard on that stuff always because of that, because it's going to go to places that, you know, for me, I wasn't taking it for physical pain. There were times in my life I would have told you that's why I was taking it. There were times in my life I would have believed that crap too. And You know, when a doctor used to say to me, listen, the pain that it's not real pain. The stuff that you're feeling is psychosomatic. I wanted to kill them because I was feeling pain, but I was feeling pain that didn't have a mechanism that caused it, right? What is the actual cause of the pain? If I take a hammer and I whack myself on the thumb, my body sends signals out to let me know that I'm in pain. It can do the same thing without the injury. Your brain has the ability to send out all of the same signals and cause the exact same pain without the hammer. That's psychosomatic pain, but the pain is not any different, I promise you. I promise. The pain is identical. One more prayer request. A local here is relapsing. He's a sweet guy, but lost. He has even forgotten his faith. We get some ones for Kevin. Man, I hate to hear that. I've been there. I was ready, moved areas, got on a script. It's still hard every day. Still having sneezing, coughing and sneezing. The sneezes, where you cough and sneeze at the same time. It's a very unique thing. Most people on planet Earth will not have it happen to them. It's a weird thing that happens to people who get off of opioids. And I'll tell you something, Archie's mom, you're going to have it for the rest of your life. Not like you do now, but there will be times when you're super, super tired, or like after a workout. Every once in a while, I'll see Johnny do it and I'll go, was that just did you just cough and sneeze at the same time? It's very unique to people that are kicking that. Like Tommy Bird knows exactly what I'm talking about. I've been on Suboxone for 10 years and it saved my life. Sober 10 years. Can we get a 3? That is awesome. It really is. That is awesome. That's why I'm here every day. You've been a lifeline. The Love Boat. You know what? This has been a lifeline for a lot of people. The audience, the people in the crew of the Lifeboat have changed more lives than they have any idea. The stuff that you guys put up, if I had an email for every time somebody said so-and-so in the chat said this and a light bulb went off for me. That's why I changed the other day. That's why I came out and said there are gurus. And I got news for you. You might be one. Doesn't mean you're going to have the answers at all times, but it means that when the time comes that somebody really needs to hear something, you're going to be the person to say it. And for that split second or that 2 minutes or whatever, you're going to be enough of a guru to save that person's life or change that person's life or get them on the path or stop them from being on the path. You know what, Monk? The brain is an absolutely... Did I have phantom pain, psychosomatic pain? I still do. I still do. I will always have it. But now I know, right? I know to sit down with a journal and go, are my knees hurting? Are my shoulders hurting because I damaged them and had surgery on them? Like I have had so many shoulder surgeries, I don't know that I could count them anymore. Is that what's causing this? Or am I so angry at such and such a person that my brain's like, uh-oh, he's pissed. If we make his shoulders hurt real bad, I bet we could go get him to go get some dope. Sounds insane, doesn't it? But your brain doesn't want to work. You know, I talk about the night shift, the day shift. You know what they would really like, both shifts? To just punch out and hang out and do nothing. And that's what happens when you're on dope. It is the path of least resistance. It's not having to engage. It's not having to work. Your brain is not your friend. Your brain wants you to do dope. That's the default. I spent more of my life that way than the way I am now. And my brain would be super, super happy if I just went and used. So you have to be aware of the fact that your brain is going to do things. So once I start journaling about it, it's amazing how many times. Sometimes I journal about it. I work through things. I call the people that I'm beefing with. I do all of the things that I know to do that will put me on the path to feel good. And I don't mean, I mean feel whole, feel right. And it doesn't work. That's real pain. I can usually go, I did something. I must have tweaked the shoulder. Working out with Johnny or whatever, I hurt myself. But that's going to be with me forever. And if you have a bunch of injuries, it's a lot harder, especially in the early days of sobriety, to not do pain meds, because your brain's going to go, let's see, what was it? 1988 at that concert, trying to climb the fence, the Doobie Brothers, injured his back. We'll just start tweaking that a little bit. Those knee surgeries, we'll work on that a little bit. And it starts to make you hurt in places that is logical for you. You go, oh man, that old jumping the fence at the concert injury is coming back. It's hard, but the psychosomatic pain is going to be with, especially if you've been an addict to pain meds, you're going to deal with that in one way or another for the rest of your life. It's funny though, how When my life is really in good shape, I can't remember the last time I complained about pain. Funny, isn't it? When I'm doing everything right, when I'm journaling, when I keep short accounts, and what I mean by that is if I'm pissed off at you and I wait 2 or 3 weeks to try to fix it, it's going to screw up every relationship I've got with everybody else too. It's going to screw up my ability to journal. It's going to screw up my ability to do everything. I've got to keep short accounts. I'm an addict. If I get upset with you, you're going to hear about it really quickly. You know, I have a couple of people who I love more than anything that we were always in, some form of communication, but I don't always get to everybody's emails. Or I say something in a chat and the person will think, I think Tommy's mad at me. Listen up real carefully. If I'm mad at you, you're going to know. You're going to know. If I'm upset about something, I can't walk around with that. I'm a drug addict. If I'm upset with somebody, I don't let that hang out because it'll leak into other things and it will start screwing up the rest of my life. If I'm in a bad place, I promise you're going to know that I'm pissed at you. If I'm upset, you're going to hear it. I'm going to call and I'm not going to yell at you. I'm just going to try to fix it. I can't have that stuff in my life. I can't. By the way, I don't think anybody can. But for me, well, you guys have seen what happens when I'm not happy with all of the people that I care about. You've seen what it does to me. This isn't a real shocker. If you follow the boat for any length of time, you know exactly what happens when I'm carrying around unresolved issues with somebody that I love. You've seen it. I can't put into words how much I appreciate the Love Boat. It's strange. My brain and body is coming back to life. Oh, man. Oh, man. How cool a thing is that to hear? Huh? My brain and my body coming back to life. Wow, man. It's always amazing to me how the morning boat gets me all charged up and ready to take on the day. Positivity is just a rowdy drug, isn't it? Honest to God, it's a rowdy drug. I've had so many surgeries and medical issues. Back in the day, in the early 2000s, they would prescribe me opioids. It took me a long time to see that I developed dependency on them and to get off of them. And I'm glad that you used the word dependency, because when people say, what do you think about them writing prescriptions for people that are actually in pain? They're going to get dependent. You take opioids for a month and then stop taking them, you're going to get dope sick just like the junkie. The difference is when you're done with the dope sick, you're not going to run back to it, and the addict will. It's the difference between dependency and addiction. Anybody can get dependent. Not everybody can get addicted. Honestly, it is a disease. You have it or you don't, but you can get dependent. You can get out of control on alcohol and get dependent to it, even if you're not an alcoholic. And this is a hard concept. You got to meet a lot of people to have this make sense. And it's why it's such an insidious disease, because you'll get a guy that was an alcoholic, right? He had to be. He drank every single day. He abused the hell out of himself. You watch this. Then he quits for 5 years and he decides, you know what? I'm going to have that one drink. Now, we all know the answer to that, right? They can't have that one drink. It's never going to work, ever. Just no chance of it. But some people do. Some people start to drink again and they'll have 3 or 4 beers at dinner and then not do anything. And 2 months later, they'll drink 3 days in a row because family's in town or whatever. And then he's put it down and you're like, what the hell? That person's willpower is so much better than mine. That person doesn't have the disease of addiction. They were dependent on alcohol for 3 or 4 years or 5 years or 10 years because they were in a crap place. And they were going to take care of their brain, whether or not, if that wasn't there, they'd have huffed paint. They were going to use something to get through the crap place they were at, and they became dependent. But there's a difference between dependency and addiction. It's strange. It really is. And it clouds things. It makes it so much more difficult. And then some asshat who drank for 10 years manages to quit, and a year or 2 later starts to become a social drinker, legitimately, never goes back, and starts a video series. I can teach you how to become a social drinker. And you just want to go, oh my God. And that ass will get rich in the process. You've seen the commercials. You know what I'm talking about. I won't call them out by name because I'm sure their lawyers are good. My soccer career gave me many broken bones and shredded ligaments. Never took the pain meds. My friends took them for fun. Audrey in Denver. Yep, I knew people like you. Every time they get injured, I would call them. You going to take that stuff? You're not. You want some beer, some money? That's why I love this boat. My headache is starting to ease up. I love that, Tommy Bird. I love that. And he says, thank you all. I must have a unique body chemistry. I can take opioids prescribed after surgery and stop on a dime. I don't like them. The drug haze they put me in. B lady, you're just not someone addicted to opioids. Most people, almost everybody is like you. The people who can't take pain meds is a much smaller segment of the society. And there's no way to know the number. But when everybody was being written prescriptions for OxyContin like they were cotton candy, they had it at somewhere between 17 and 20. 17 to 20% that were becoming addicted. That means 80% of the people didn't have a problem, even with an insidious opiate, right? One that really got a lot of people hooked. You know, this is why I say stuff like, I think we'd be better off if drugs were legal and you could go into any store you wanted and buy any substance. I'm sorry, I didn't start the Love Boat that way at all. That was not my head in the beginning. Tommy, many headaches are caused by magnesium deficiencies, aka Epsom salt foot soak will stop it. I'll be damned, I did not know that. But I do know that if I take salt, that I have had my my migraines stopped like that by putting salt in my body. And I watched it work for Johnny Scoville, and 2 other people that I have given the advice to have said the same thing. You know, they talk about how bad salt is for you, but if you go to the hospital, the first thing they do is put you on a saline drip. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And I owe the guru Brock Bandy. Brock Bandy was the guru that gave me that info. Monk says, "Wear the guru badge, Johnny." He may have written Tommy, but when my brother starts wearing the legend badge, I'll start working with the guru badge. Salt is very important. Caroline says, "I put salt on everything, even my toast. Like Frank's Red Hot, you put that on everything." I have a really addictive personality, says Caroline. Do you realize that science says that doesn't exist? I absolutely am the same person. I think that there are people who, and nobody has a more addictive personality than Johnny Scoville. Nobody. Everything he does, he overdoes. It used to be the Scoville motto. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. Everyone who takes an opioid for a length of time will get addicted, as everyone has dopamine receptors. Archie's mom, anyone who takes opioids for a length of time will get dependent, meaning you have to do it or you're going to get sick. But if you took 25 people and you had all of them do the exact same thing, right? Or 100, make it easy math. If you took 100 people and you said for the next 30 days, you're going to take 4 OxyContin 80s a day, every single one of you. At the end of the study, 90 days and later, for 60 days, whatever, everyone's going to be dependent. If they don't take it the following day, they're all going to get dope sick, malia, right? Whatever you want to call it, withdrawal sickness. However, statistically speaking, about 80% of those people will go, damn, I'm never taking one of those again as long as I live. That was the worst crap ever. I am never doing that again. By the way, most won't stick to that, but they'll dabble. They're never going to get back to that dependency again. And about 20% of those people are going to go, I got to get more of those today, right? I got to get more of those today. They're clean. They're off of it. They've gone through the detox, right? There's nothing in it. 20% are going to go find that stuff. That's just kind of how it works out. By the way, about 3% of them are going to either end up dead or incarcerated. These are kind of how those numbers work. But the vast majority of people who take opioids are never going to develop a problem with them. They're going to tell them, take them how the doctor prescribed them. It doesn't seem that way because we're losing 300 people a day. But I promise you that's the fact. What you got to realize is of the 300 people a day that we're losing, don't assume every single one of them is a drug addict. We know that's not the case, right? I've told the story on here so many times about the girl who was written a prescription for Percodan, or for Percocet, I mean. She had just had her wisdom teeth out. And as they were driving away from the house, she said to the people in the car, "Oh, turn around. The prescription they wrote me for pain. Can you turn around? I got to go back to my house and get one. My jaw's killing me." And one of the people in the car said, "What are you taking?" And she said, "They wrote me a prescription for Percocet." So he gave her a Perc 30. It said M30 on it, right? Got to be a Percocet 30. It was a street Percocet 30, and it had fentanyl in it, and it killed her. There are twin brothers that died almost the same way. You know, this is killing people that aren't all junkies. It kills a lot of people that experiment with it. If the pill's got more than 2 milligrams of fentanyl in it, you're going to die taking it. Whether you're a junkie or someone that's never done it, doesn't really matter. They don't care, right? It's going to kill you. My mom was an alcoholic. I've never had a sip of any, fearing I'd become just like her. I do, however, smoke pot after the kids go to bed. You want to hear a funny story? I was, my mom used to have daycare centers. And one day she was sitting around and she was talking about smoking because in the state we were in, they would say, you need to do like, it's a public service announcement. So whatever kind of a thing, but they wanted everybody to do tell kids that cigarettes are dangerous. And in the same session, they were reading all the stuff and they said, science has even said that each cigarette could take 5 years off of your life. And this little girl in the front, her name was Rihanna, and she's doing this one, shaking her head. And my mother said, Rihanna, you don't believe that? She goes, no, my mom smokes, and it only takes her about a minute to smoke one. And I had to walk out of the room laughing. And when I came back to try to get it back under control, this person, one of the other little girls raises her hand and goes, my mom and dad smoke. And we knew this family. The guy was a doctor. I used to dog sit at their house. And my mom goes, your mom and dad don't smoke. And she goes, no, my mom and dad smoke. And my mom was like, no, I'm pretty sure they don't. She said, they do. It's only late at night in their bedroom when they watch movies. And when he came to get the kids, I was like, hey, your kids are probably a little bit slicker than you thought. If you're smoking, dope and watching Tommy Boy sitting in bed, your kids are onto it. And I'm telling you what, that's a life lesson too, because a lot of times, like I was one of those people that when I finally stopped doing heroin, the number of people that knew, I didn't think anybody knew. I thought I had the whole world slick. They may not have known what I was on, but we never, again, it's what you create in your head so that you can continue to be the person that you are. If you realize that everybody is looking at you and feeling either heartbroken or sad or scared, then you got to deal with the fact that your addiction, your disease is affecting other people. I was really fond of saying, look, if I want to do heroin, it's my life. It only affects me. What's in anybody else's business? I promise you, if you're living in addiction, it's affecting a lot more people than just you. Geeky CMOS and a chai machine, which rebuilds your spine, will serve you greatly, I think. I believe Chris is giving advice too. Let me back up here. The person with scoliosis. Geeky C Art, I was born with scoliosis and chronic pain. Learning about and growing things that help inflammation and give me good magnesium is great. Sharing that with others in pain helps with sobriety and purpose. Well, thank you. Honestly, anything that you can do. I don't do yoga because it's a hell of a lot of fun. I do enjoy it, but I do yoga because it helps me stay flexible. The more flexible I am, the less likely I'm going to be to get in pain. And inflammation is absolutely a killer. It's an undiagnosed killer. So much of the bad stuff that happens in our life is caused by inflammation. And sadly, our diet causes a lot of that. And you should come back tomorrow morning because I'm going to talk about that. Diet is going to be one of the things that I talk about tomorrow. Today, folks, if you're off the path, if you're feeling lost, pull the trigger on making a change. Nothing is going to change if you continue to do exactly what you're doing. I promise. If you're waiting for life to, once things get better, nothing ever gets better unless you make it get better. If you're living with past trauma, that past trauma is going to affect your present. And present is where we're either happy or sad. It's also going to affect your future. And your future is where success is determined. Planning for a future is how you're successful. You can't plan for a future if you're living in the past, I promise. So you got to jump. You got to take action. Get a journal, start working on it. I promise. The answers that you're looking for, the epiphanies that are out there, they're going to show up in that journal because the only person that really knows what's wrong with you is you. You're just going to have to go in there and dig it out. Right? It's like a forensic deep dive on your brain. Start journaling, folks. And if you go, I don't know what to write, Tommy, go back about a week, 8 days, something like that. We've been talking about this, right? From day one. Go start at my beginning, the first one that I did. They're the morning shows. Go to the first morning show you can find in the last couple of weeks and watch all of them. And I promise you, it's an instruction on how this stuff works by people smarter than me. Thank you, Kimberly. What a nice thing to say. All right, folks, I will be going live this evening at the Normal Squirrel Time, Normal Squirrel channel. That will be at 7:05 Pacific time on the United States, in the United States, California time. All right. Between now and the next time I see you, thank you, Jane Aldrich, for all you do. Between now and the next time I see you, reach out, put a little love in your heart, and be kind. Bye-bye, everybody.